We welcome you back to this Tuesday morning, live in person in studio on the early line on SportsGrid. Some big football headlines from a Tuesday afternoon. DRS, Justin Tucker, the all-world, all-pro kicker for the Baltimore Ravens, released yesterday by the Ravens organization in what GM Eric DeCosta is calling strictly a football decision. Now, Justin Tucker, who has spent all 13 years of his NFL career with this Ravens organization, is coming off by far the worst year of his career in 2024. But of course, that is just a part of the story. Tucker currently under investigation by the National Football League as 16 different women have accused him of sexual misconduct in terms of massage therapy sessions around the greater Baltimore area. So under NFL investigation, but the Ravens organization saying this is strictly a football decision. What did you make of the move, DRS, and the reasoning behind it?
I don't mind the move itself from a football decision, if that's what they're calling it. We'll get to that in a second, because it's pretty clear that he's the best kicker of all time, but really fell off for the past 2 years. I mean, kicks that would be like, okay, cross midfield, that's an automatic 3 points. Now we're like, ooh, can he even make extra points at this point? But understand this, too. Football teams are very calculated, and something has to do with like, hey, I want to make this move, but let me contact our lawyers here of how we need to word this so we don't get a lawsuit back. And then you say to yourself, no. We've seen this before where guys get in legal trouble, fights, domestic violence, gun charges, and if you're not a great football player, you're released immediately, Ben. And what do they say to that franchise? We will not allow this to ever happen again on our franchise. We are zero tolerance. But now for the past 2 years, you're hearing some of these rumors like, we'll play it by ear. And you even heard them say just a few months ago, we're going to let the legalities play out until you get that crescendo from the fan base that goes, is this worth the trouble? We're going to run this guy out here where he's going to have these allegations probably continuously pop up, and is he worth the trouble? Now understand this. If he made all his kicks last year, he would have been worth the trouble no matter what he was doing off the field until he was convicted here. But I look at it and say, just be honest with us. Right. We're releasing Justin Tucker. A lot of things going into us. Is it football? Yes. Is it off the field? Yes. We wish him well, and so be it. So you know what? I can deal with that. But the fact that they came out and said, you know what? We waited this long because it's just a football decision. You know what a football decision does? The minute their season ends, he's cut immediately here. And you postmark it for June 1st, and you live with it. This was not a strictly football decision as the Ravens are playing it.
And they tried to make it seem as such. Here's a statement from GM Eric DeCosta about the decision to release Justin Tucker after 13 years with the organization. Sometimes football decisions are incredibly difficult, and this is one of those instances. Considering our current roster, we have made the tough decision to release Justin Tucker. Justin created many significant and unforgettable moments in Ravens history. His reliability, focus, drive, resilience, and extraordinary talent made him one of the league's best kickers for over a decade. We are grateful for Justin's many contributions while playing for the Ravens. We sincerely wish him and his family the very best in this next chapter of their lives, which again, if it is just a football decision, you thank a guy for what he has done for nearly a decade and a half in your organization. But it does seem a little bit nearsighted, DRS, for a guy that, hey, he has not been proven anything right now. Inappropriate behavior are the allegations against him and currently under investigation by the NFL. Nothing has been charged against Justin Tucker at this moment. He does not face any discipline or punishment at this current time from the National Football League office. But with that said, he's still under investigation. There are ways to handle this from a public standpoint, knowing you are going to have this with all the notoriety. It's a little bit different than the statement released by the Ravens. Yes.
Absolutely. And understand this, what a football decision means. Like, he didn't go from the best kicker of all time, which he was, to the worst kicker in the NFL. He's an average kicker. If this was a football decision that came out and said, you know what, for what we're getting and how much money he makes, we asked him to restructure. He said no, we let him go. That's a football decision. But you know where this is going to creep into, Ben? Justin Tucker gets released today. And here's the opportunity where if it was really a football decision or not, I don't think anybody else picks him up. Not because he can't still kick a football, but they don't want the baggage that comes along with a kicker who's not the greatest of all time anymore. And that's what clouds the situation. Do I applaud the Ravens for getting rid of him? No, you should have got rid of him when the allegations came up, or at least came out with a strong statement. We vehemently disagree with what's going on right now. We have to let the legal discourse play out. We'll let you know at a further date. And the further date should have been like, yeah, the legalities are playing out. We just don't understand what's going on. We have a zero conduct policy here in our organization. But to just come out and say, hey, you know what? It's May. Hey, you know what? I saw him last week. He missed a 47-yarder at practice at the facility. We're just going to let him go. That didn't happen.
Part of it could be what the Ravens did in the NFL draft. They drafted a kicker out of Arizona, Tyler Loop, in the 6th round, the first time in the 30-year history of the Ravens franchise. They drafted a kicker in the NFL draft. It's part of the roster construction. We understand that. And if it is a football decision, that's the Ravens' priority. But again, with the circumstances around it, knowing this guy is under investigation by the National Football League, you have to at least be wary of those decisions you
Now,
make.
by the way, also, Ben, because I thought you were going here with the draft as well, they drafted a defensive end that had some questionable past,
very much so.
who's a very talented kid that slipped into a second round here because of what the allegations would be. And as soon as they drafted him, what was the first point most people brought up? Well, that's interesting for the Ravens. They already have one, issue here, and now you're drafting another guy. And again, we're not saying that's going to repeat it or it's even going to be finality in the court of law, but that's a bad look for an organization. Maybe saying, all right, we can have one, just not two, and hopefully it works out in our favor.
Mike Hill, that player drafted by the Ravens late in the second round, graded by many with first-round talent, but does have some very serious allegations against him dating back to sexual assault allegations during high school and at his first stop collegiately at Virginia. Many people cited, DRS, a quote from John Harbaugh around the Deshaun Watson trade and large contract given out by AFC North rival the Cleveland Browns, where Harbaugh said he was glad to work in the Ravens organization where they have a zero-tolerance policy for anything of that conduct, and yet here we are. So we'll see what the future is for Justin Tucker, still under investigation by the National Football League. Some other football headlines on a Monday as well. Sherrone Moore going to be suspended by Michigan, self-imposed discipline in terms of the sign-stealing scandal around Connor Stallions. Moore going to miss Week 3, week number 4 against Central Michigan and Michigan's Big Ten opener against Nebraska. So Moore can be there for game number 2 against his alma mater in Oklahoma. Oh, the self-imposed discipline for a scandal y'all said was nothing.
It is pretty good. Like, we chewed on this pretty good yesterday, particularly on TEL when it came out immediately and then on Moneyline. But I think the best part of this point is, like, Ben, if you got or I got suspended from the network and you're like, Donnie, I don't want you to miss the Super Bowl, but we'll suspend you for the Monday after the Super Bowl. Like, well, how serious of an actual penalty is it? The fact that he played at Oklahoma, wants to go back to Oklahoma, coach, like, you know what? You can do that. You'll skip Central Michigan. Knock it off. Just don't suspend them.
I mean, Jim Harbaugh suspended for 6 games during the 2023 season. Sherrone Moore now for 2 games in 2025. Back to Major League Baseball in just a little bit. A little MLB buy or sell here, live in person on this Tuesday on TEL. But a new market has emerged.
Oh, yes.
And it will be a story for this NFL offseason throughout the summer months, courtesy of our Canadian friends at FanDuel Canada. The odds are out to be the Browns' Week 1 starting quarterback. A very jumbled quarterback room in Cleveland. Here are what the odds indicate as of this moment. The old wily veteran at 40 years old, Joe Flacco, is the favorite to be that Week 1 starter for Cleveland at plus 116, nearly $1 in front of the offseason acquisition via a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles. Kenny Pickett at plus 220. Shedeur Sanders, the 5th-round draft pick, plus 370. The 3rd-round selection in Dylan Gabriel is plus 830, the longest price. You do not see Deshaun Watson listed on that. He's not going to be ready for Week 1. If he plays another game in a Browns uniform, it would be an odds upset as well. DRS Flacco listed as the favorite to be that Week 1 starter. Do our Canadian friends have it correct?
Here's what I love, too. Like, that graphic alone explains you how bad the Cleveland Browns organization actually is. Because as Ben was going over, because, like, I know the segment was coming up and I saw what it was, but until it was, like, read out loud, like, yeah, we drafted a kid in the 5th round who's actually way better than the kid that we drafted in the 3rd round. The kid in the 5th round should start, so therefore the odds would be. But understand this. Ben, let me ask you this simple question.
Please.
The Cleveland Browns' expectations outside of the head coach and the general manager and the owner is what? What is it?
To win 5 games, maybe?
Exactly. So then we see the favorite being Joe Flacco, where you want your franchise quarterback to start if you're having a bad season. Why? He's going to get experience, you're going to be bad, and you're going to get a better draft pick. It's like a win-win-win. We're not ready to win just yet, but also at the same time now, we're led to believe that Flacco is going to start at 40 years old for what on a bad football team? Make it make sense. And then you see like Kenny Pickett. Like, Joe Flacco shouldn't be there if you have Kenny Pickett.
For sure.
And if you're starting Kenny Pickett, he's not your future quarterback either. So what are we actually doing? I look at this and say it should be Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel to find out who your starter is, because you can't go halfway like they did in the offseason. Let's pay Myles Garrett. Let's lose football games. That doesn't make sense, but that's the Browns. And again, looking at that roster, it can't, day one, it cannot be Joe Flacco.
I mean, DRS.
Can't
Again,
be.
Myles Garrett might be one of the funniest offseason storylines we really haven't discussed. It happened during Super Bowl week. The trade request because he wanted to be with a Super Bowl contender, the way that Andrew Berry handled that, saying we still want this guy here. He's going to end up in Canton from Cleveland. And then Myles Garrett, because he was paid $40 million a year with over $123 million guaranteed. You understand why he is with the Browns franchise. The dollar speaks very loudly. But for Myles Garrett to say, they told me, don't worry, we got a plan in place at the quarterback spot, for this to be the plan is insane. Now, when the Browns traded for Kenny Pickett, whether it's fair or not, I think Kenny Pickett has some experience. Is he going to be the face of a franchise? Probably not. Is he going to live up to the hype to be a first-round pick back in 2022? Probably not. Is he worth trying out? I would say for a team that is not expecting to do a lot, with a head coach in Kevin Stefanski that has done a lot with very little. Insert Joe Flacco in 2023, starting the final 5 games of that year as the Browns won 11 and reached the postseason. But where exactly did that leave you if you are Cleveland? In a spot 2 years later to be drafting 2nd overall, of course, trading out of that and selecting Mason Graham 5th overall. So in the 2 hopeful spots, I think you could say, DRS. The first move Cleveland made this offseason to acquire Kenny Pickett for very little in return back to Philadelphia. All right, maybe take a shot on this guy. We shall see entering year 4 in the NFL. You drafted Dillon Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders because clearly you like Gabriel more in this draft process, and yet Shedeur has the better price to be your week 1 starter. Both of the moves that you made with a little bit of hope are now the 2 guys that have longer odds than the guy that was acquired after them, either by a free agent signing for the 40-year-old in Flacco or 2 rounds later for Shedeur Sanders.
And again, it's simple math, too, because you really cloudied, or should I say muddied, that quarterback room when you're trying to say, okay, we put the 2 rookies in there, and who's actually better? Did we draft him later to show him you better have more respect about coming to the NFL, but you're a better football player than 3? Let's remove that. Like, a healthy quarterback room would actually have been like, you know what? Our game plan is Kenny Pickett's going to be our starter. If a young rookie can beat him out, that's so be it. We'll put him at number 2, which would be Shedeur Sanders. Let's leave Dillon Gabriel out. Yeah. But then we have Joe Flacco as that guy that's great for the room, going to help everybody out. And if the young quarterback at number 2 isn't ready to play in week number 2, we put Joe Flacco in so we don't embarrass ourselves and give us a legitimate chance to win that game. But the fact that we're seeing here, just based on the odds, like, hey, Flacco start, Kenny Pickett's number 2, and then the 2 quarterbacks that we hope to be our franchise guys will be later, understanding that we might win 5 or 6 games anyway, regardless of conditions. And that's why you should be betting with the lower ranks, like I need Shedeur Sanders or Dillon Gabriel. It's an unhealthy quarterback room. It's ridiculous that it was put together this way, and even more ridiculous now that we see the odds on who's actually supposed to start week 1. You say, yeah, let Flacco go. He's 40. He's not your future. You're not winning anything. Get your future started right now.
DRS, it's really inexplicable, and I think if you're every guy in this scenario outside of Joe Flacco, because he was a late offseason signing in the free agency period, you're a little bit pissed off right now. If I'm Kenny Pickett, why did you guys trade for me if I'm going to be the backup? I could have been the backup on a Super Bowl winning team in Philadelphia. I want my shot to start. If you're Dillon Gabriel, why did you draft me in the 3rd round to take another quarterback in round number 5? It's clear. You can argue whatever you want about Shedeur Sanders. We'll never know the full story of his draft slide in the stock that took a large hit throughout this draft process. But it is clear that Cleveland liked Dillon Gabriel a ton more in this NFL draft process than they did Shedeur Sanders. They had multiple opportunities before even selecting Dillon Gabriel to draft Shedeur Sanders. So Sanders shouldn't be happy because he now slid to the 5th round and is not exactly in the best scenario to become a starter. He's fighting to earn a roster spot. Gabriel should be pissed. If this was college football, Dillon Gabriel would be in the transfer portal, as would Kenny Pickett, and Flacco would be there at the age of 40 hoping for just a little bit more. To the point of your expectation question, we had 4 teams on draft night with a win total of 5.5. 2 of those 4 had juice on the over. 2 of the 4 had juice on the under. The most juice at the time, the New York Giants at -140. The Browns at -135. They have flip-flopped, DRS. The Browns now technically the worst win total in the National Football League. 5.5 is the number. The under juiced at -140.
It's actually brutal what they're doing right now, and I agree with those standings because I don't think they're going to have a good football season. Also, maybe if they just drafted Shedeur in the 3rd round and Gabriel in the 5th round, it would make a little bit more sense. Now the room doesn't make any sense, and neither do the Cleveland Browns.
Sean Watson's still on the roster. More on the early line up next.